Today, I present to you my low-tier guide on Furutaka, Tier 4 IJN Heavy Cruiser. What I intend to do in this video is go over the stats, the armor scheme, and my recommended commander build for the ship. Then we'll take it out into 2, maybe 3 games, and I will do live commentary over the gameplay as I am playing the game. The idea being that hopefully I can better communicate my thought process in real time, and these won't be cherry-picked games that I thought, wow, this was a good result, put it on YouTube, that represents the ship. No, these will be more accurate representations of what you can expect when you play the Furutaka. So let's get into it. Note, though, that I've currently got Arpeggio Kirishima at the helm, not because this is a good commander to use for the Furutaka, but because this is a battleship commander whose skills are A, not active, and B, don't even affect cruisers. So we're getting nothing from this commander, meaning that when we go over to the specs page, we will see the base stats of the Furutaka unmodified by any commander. Although, keep in mind, we do have the ship fully upgraded with all of the major upgrades. So it's fully ground out. It's not going to be quite the same as if it were a base Furutaka. And we also have Aiming Systems Mod 1 in the first slot, because I do think that is the best choice out of everything. Although certainly Main Battery Mod 2 would not be a bad idea for the Furutaka in particular. We'll see why as we get into the stats. To begin with, Furutaka has 30,700 HP, which I think is fairly good for the tier. I think most cruisers at this tier are in the 25 to 30 range, so this might be a little bit more HP than is typical. Although I don't know, I'm not very familiar with Tier 4. I don't play down here too terribly often. The guns, though. This is unique about the Furutaka. We've got 6 203mm guns in single turrets. 203 millimeters, 8 inches. These are heavy cruiser guns. Heavy cruisers at the highest tier in the game have this gun size, and really, the cruisers don't start turning heavy on the tech tree lines until about tier 5, with, for example, the Pensacola in the American line. But Furutaka gets the big cruiser guns down at tier 4, which is significant for a reason we'll go into when we're looking at the armor. Base range on these guns is 13.4 kilometers, which is probably perfectly serviceable for the tier. We've got a reload time of 13.5 seconds and a very bad turret traverse time of 36 seconds. This, I think, is one of the pain points on this ship. The slower the turret traverse, the harder it is to get the guns on target, and that is not something you want to have to deal with when you're thinking about angling and keeping yourself safe in a cruiser. So I think our commander build needs to address this shortcoming. As for the shells and the damage, HE, 3,300, 17% fire chance. I think those are probably very strong numbers, especially for the tier. The HE will do a lot of damage, and that is a decent fire chance. The AP shells, 4,700 maximum damage. That, of course, is only if they hit the Citadel. But with guns this big, at this tier, hitting the Citadels of enemy cruisers should be pretty easy. Torpedoes. It's got 8 of them. 2 quadruple launchers on either side of the ship, 94-second reload time, 16,267 damage, 1.5 km detectability by sea, 10-kilometer range, 59-knot speed. These are the torpedoes that you send out when you're kiting away from the enemy as they're sailing toward you, and they can catch them off guard and do some good damage. AA, really nothing to speak of here. No point in really even talking about it. It is not good. You cannot defend yourself from carriers. Good luck. Maneuverability, though, excellent on the Furutaka. Maximum speed of 34.5 knots. Most high-tier cruisers aren't even quite that fast at base. Turning circle, not bad, 750 meters, and rudder shift, actually really good at 5.7 seconds. It's been a long time since I really looked at Furutaka. I thought it'd be worse than that, but that is very good rudder shift. Concealment, 10.7 kilometers by sea. Not bad, I would say, but we also want to buff that if we can. We don't have the mods to do it, but we do have commander skills. So as for the commander, who I actually recommend is maybe a little bit different than what I think most people would recommend. I think most people would say Yamamoto, because of course his skills do things like extend the gun range, increase the fire chance, increase the AP pen. There are a bunch of offensive skills, essentially, but they don't address one of the Furutaka's shortcomings, which is the terrible turret traverse. And I think there is a better choice for the Furutaka, and a choice that is good for the entire IJN cruiser line, honestly. That is Gunichi Mikawa. This is who I would recommend for the Furutaka, and I'll show you why. Mikawa is a more defensive-minded cruiser. First of all, his base trait decreases cruiser detectability. You can see I've got him at rank 16, and if I remember correctly, he was the first commander I brought to rank 16, because this base trait will serve you well on literally every single cruiser build in this entire game. If you're going to pour resources into commanders, I think you want to pour them into commanders that you can use as inspirations on multiple builds, and Mikawa is a great one for literally any cruiser build because of this concealment buff. So that right there helps us out with the Furutaka a little bit. But the crucial thing here is the ingenious skill. This does two things, both of which I think are very significant. Number one, it increases cruiser gun traverse speed by 1.6 degrees per second when fully maxed. We'll see what that translates to on the stats page in a second when we look at the key stats with Mikawa influencing them, but that will help with the slow turret traverse. And it will also give you an indicator for the number of enemy ships currently targeting you with their main batteries, which can be helpful for knowing when, you're about to get shot at and maybe you need to take some evasive action. Speaking of which, we've gone with full speed ahead, so we get even better rudder shift time and even better speed. I also used Velocis for even more speed on the Furutaka, although I think really any of the skills here are fine. And then we've got better rudder shift with steer clear, and finally fully packed, which will give us extra charges of consumables. Not that the Furutaka has too many of those or really needs this skill, but other cruisers up on the higher tiers certainly will benefit, especially when they start getting heals with the Mogami at tier 7. As for the inspirations, I've got Mimbelli here and Kuznetsov. The real downside of Mikawa is that you can't really spec into the range of the cruiser guns, and range can be useful. But if you've got Kuznetsov, he's an inspiration that increases the range a little bit, so I think that's probably helpful. And then Mimbelli decreases the reload time, so we get a little bit of extra DPM. I think this is a pretty good sort of generic build that would work on pretty much any IJN cruiser in this line. Although, ones at the higher tier, there might be some other builds you might want to get into. But for the Furutaka, I think this is a good one. This is going to help you with speed and maneuverability. It's going to help you turn the guns faster, and it's going to tell you how many people are aiming at you. All things that I think would be very helpful to you, especially if you're a newer player trying to grind these lines. Now, armor scheme. Let's take a look at that because this is significant. So to begin with, we've got 13mm bow plating here, which is kind of significant for a reason I'll talk about in a second. But the crucial thing to keep in mind is this side armor. This is 25mm here, and then it's got a 48mm deck. These are great armor values for a Tier 4 cruiser. This is actually very heavily armored compared to most Tier 4 cruisers. Like, let's just take one example, another common one. Let's go over to the American side and take a look at the Omaha, okay? This ship has no armor. It's got 10 millimeters of armor literally everywhere. That's nothing. And other cruisers of other nations are fairly similar as well. Emerald, for example, I mean, now to be fair, it does have some armor plating down at the waterline, which is kind of trolly, but otherwise it's covered in 13 millimeters of armor. This 13 millimeters of armor or less is a very common armor value on cruisers at Tier 4. But back to the Furutaka's 25mm plating, and why is it significant? Well, the Furutaka has 203 millimeter guns. These are big guns for a cruiser, and AP shells have a mechanic called overmatch, which I'll explain very briefly. Overmatch means that anytime your shell makes contact with an armor threshold that it can overmatch, no ricochet check will be performed. The shell will simply penetrate the armor as if it doesn't exist. So if we're shooting at the Furutaka, and say we're an enemy ship looking at the Furutaka from this angle, if we shoot small AP guns at that green armor, at this angle, they're just going to bounce off. But if they're big enough to overmatch this armor, they're just going to go right through like the armor doesn't exist. That's basically what overmatch means, long story short. So, Furutaka's guns, 203 millimeters. How do we know what armor threshold 203 millimeters overmatches? We do very simple math to find the overmatch threshold of armor for any ship in the game. All you have to do is take the gun caliber in millimeters, so in this case, 203 millimeters, divided by 14.3. That's the number right there, 14.3. Take any gun caliber in the game, divide it by 14.3, you get the overmatch threshold. What is the answer? Well, it is 14.195, blah, 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 blah. That means the Furutaka can overmatch 14 millimeters of armor. That is, go right through the armor plating as if it doesn't exist. And we just looked at the Furutaka and the Emerald. They have 13 millimeter plating or less. And that means that these AP shells on the Furutaka can penetrate, overmatch those cruisers practically everywhere. That's very, very dangerous if you're playing one of those cruisers against this ship. So that's something to keep in mind. But the 25 millimeter plating, that can only be overmatched by 357 millimeter guns or larger. And that's significant too. Because let's take a look at something like the Congo. Typical Tier 5 or Tier 4 battleship, 356 millimeter guns. We go over to another common battleship at the tier, the New York, also 356 millimeter guns. Most of the battleships at this tier have 356 millimeter guns or smaller. Maybe some of them actually have 305. Either way, though, you need 357 or larger to overmatch 25 millimeters. That means at this kind of angle, even if a New York shoots at the Furutaka, if his shells hit that green armor plating, they're just going to bounce off and do no damage. They hit the blue bow here, yes, they're going to go through. They're going to go through that. They will overmatch it, but they will not overmatch the 25 millimeter armor belt, nor will they overmatch the 48 millimeter deck armor. That means Furutaka can bounce a lot of high caliber AP shells at the tier. It can protect itself perhaps better than almost any cruiser at the tier. It's very heavily armored for the tier. Now, that being said, it does have an extremely exposed citadel. Obviously, it sits very high above the waterline. If you are giving broadside and not angling your armor, you can expect to be blown up very easily indeed. So, you do need to be careful, but you do have the tools to protect yourself. So, with that out of the way, I think what we will do is jump into battle, but we should actually probably check the specs with Mikawa at the helm now. And the crucial specs we want to look at are here on the guns. We've now got 14 kilometer range. We've reduced our reload time a little bit, 12.9. And the turret traverse time is 27.3 rather than 36 seconds. So that's almost a 10-second decrease in turret traverse time. That should make things a little bit easier with this ship. And then the maneuverability, it's gotten quite a bit faster, 37 knots, almost 38 knots base, and a 4.9 second rudder shift. This thing will be doing circles around a lot of Tier 4 cruisers. And then 10.1 km on detectability. Not bad. Let's take it into a couple battles, and we'll see how it performs. We do have Queen Elizabeth actually about to be in range, so we'll probably start shooting at that. Although it does disturb me a little bit that we haven't seen... I think that was a California earlier on for a while. Oh, there it is. See, I thought it might be close. And I didn't realize there was going to be an Omaha there. Okay. Well, so this is not ideal. We don't really want this, but we're not going to panic. We're not going to turn broadside yet. We're going to angle in case California shoots. Omaha can shoot all he wants. California maybe is turning his guns this way. Omaha, we can't do anything about. Need to angle to California if he is indeed going to shoot us. Slow down a little bit. Shoot him, why not? Are you going to shoot? We're going to wait for him to shoot. We don't want to turn broadside till he does. There he goes. See? Rather protected. We probably don't want to give broadside to an Omaha. He can screw us up if he shoots AP, but yeah, it's a risk I'm willing to take. He's probably torpedoing us. But he's dead, so it doesn't matter. It's fine. Anyway, there's at least an example of how tanky the Furutaka is. So as long as you angle, you can protect yourself quite well against even battleships like California, which I think people widely regard as a pretty good battleship at this tier. All right, well, how did this game go? Not bad. Second on the leaderboard behind the Fuso with 1700 XP. We played an all right game, certainly. On to the next one. I don't really want to go in front of that island either. I do think I want to shoot at Pensacola, though. And even though our reload time is fairly long, we're going to switch shells because he's broadside. And we're going to turn away because we don't want to be giving broadside to that part of the map, especially if he wants to shoot back. Open fire on the Pensacola, see what happens. I think he's accelerating. Yeah, so not great results, but... Oh, okay, and then Dallas as well. He is turning broadside. Reverse his way a little bit. There we go. Nice Citadel. See if we can get a repeat of that. And we'll just continue reversing. Again, pointing our stern at the enemy, pointing our bow towards safety. That is what you want to do in the Furutaka. And the idea also is to make yourself not a very nice, attractive target. You'd be surprised at... Wow, we missed there. You'd be surprised at, if you're angled like this, how many ships do not want to shoot you because they don't think they can get good damage. And they're probably right. And there goes Dallas. First blood, not bad. That's a tier 5 cruiser, too. See, Furutaka is a little beast. Now we got a Queen Elizabeth again. We don't want to... We're going to launch torpedoes out here, just in case. Actually, that was really good damage from the AP. Okay, we don't want to shoot at Queen Elizabeth just yet. You see how broadside we are. He's not detecting us yet. We want to reverse a little bit, and he's just shot. So now that he's just shot, we'll shoot at him. Breton cannot overmatch us. He's not quite the same threat as the Queen Elizabeth. But, okay, so we don't really want to move from this position too much. This is a good position. We know that Queen Elizabeth and Breton are right there. We're not going to get shot at from any other direction. So we know how to keep ourselves safe. We are going to move forward a little bit. Queen Elizabeth not paying attention. See what I told you? You angle like that, enemy ships really don't think they have a chance of doing much damage, and so, well, he gets torpedoed by our DD. And this looks like it could potentially be another blowout. Do we get a torp on the Breton? There we go. That's nice. A little bit more damage. And I think maybe we'll kill the Breton. No, maybe not. But he doesn't do a lot of damage. Oh, actually, he gets a lucky Citadel there through the stern. That's not nice, but whatever. It's fine. This is another blowout. The enemy team literally has 1 point. So another blowout. Not the competition down here at Tier 4 and Tier 5 is not exactly fierce, Decent result. Third on the leaderboard. Not terrible. Not a terrible game. 52,000 damage. We'll do one more. All right, so slightly better matchmaking here. We've got, a few cruisers. Nuremberg, Aoba, other Furutaka. Got a lot of battleships. Nuremberg, too. Got a lot of battleships, though, but Koenig, Huga, Friedrich, New Mexico, none of them can overmatch us. Only Queen Elizabeth can, so we can be fairly safe. We spawn on the Charlie flank, so we're going to put the guns over here. It can be helpful, by the way, to lock your guns. If you bring up the comm wheel, you hold, or you press square, that locks your guns in place. So you can put them on one side of the ship and kind of have them waiting for when you meet the enemy. And the idea is, I'm not sure what the Omaha is doing, but he's kind of doing what I intend to do, which is push in a little bit, get close to this island, kind of make a turn in this direction, see what happens. I think this destroyer is coming this way, so he may be able to provide some vision, but I do actually want to get right up to this island. Keep the guns like midships there, get right up to this island, turn to the left, be inside the cap a little bit with the island to the starboard side. Oh, and we get spotted. Interesting. I think there's a destroyer somewhere over there then. Good to know. Do we get spotted if we shoot at this Aoba? Probably. Regretting not having the AP. Okay, Queen Elizabeth, we drop spot. I don't think we're going to get a follow-up shot on the Furutaka. Or not the Furutaka, the Aoba. The successor to this ship. So we'll maybe hang out in this cap if the enemy's going to allow us to take it. Oh lord, we don't want to get spotted right here. We're not going to shoot. We're going to take this cap. Koenig. Okay, we did get spotted by the Aoba, but we should drop spot. Yep. And I think we're going to take this cap with no resistance, apparently. Thought there was a destroyer around, but I guess didn't want to come into the cap. Can we... I don't know if those can actually hit Aoba or not. Hopefully. I think those might have all been ghost shells. There's like a visual bug in this game where if you're right up next to an island, like really close to it, and your shells hit the island, it looks like they go through it and go toward the ship, but they actually don't. Maybe if we're lucky, we'll get a citadel. All right, there we go. Furutaka not letting down. Queen Elizabeth is kind of taking themselves out of play. So we'll head this way. That's where the action is. Can we get shots on that Nuremberg? Maybe not. But yeah, we want to head this way. Our team is like way, way overloading this Charlie cap. They're all like chasing the Queen Elizabeth. These guys taking themselves completely out of position. Not ideal. We need more forces down here because the enemy team has cruisers to go through on the Alpha cap, and then they're going to turn into B, and they're going to come and get us surrounded. So need to be cautious here. I think we want to wait before we shoot at Huga. Huga is scary, very accurate guns. There we go. We don't even get spotted. We're going to throw some torps in this gap, though, just because. You never know. But, okay, so what we're going to do then is try to take out the enemy Furutaka. Switch back to the AP. So what we're going to have to do in this ship is be switching between the shell types, especially with when enemy cruisers are involved. Now, Furutaka is slightly angled. I don't know if the AP will bounce or pen. He is ever so slightly angled, but let's see. All right, that's good, but I think we aimed just a little too high. Lower it down a little. I think he's turning out, though, and most of our shells clip the island anyway. Oh, there's Huga. But that's okay. We should drop spot. Those torpedoes might do something. Kind of dubious, but probably going to have to switch back to the HE. I want to kind of get out here, though. I think we're going to lose this game. We'll see. I'm going to put a plane up in the air just to maybe get some extra vision. I don't necessarily want to be shooting AP at battleships, but we'll do it anyway since that's what we've got. But then we want to turn the ship immediately and start angling in this direction because we know there's enemies out that way that could potentially have our broadside. So we don't want to give them that. Hyuga is distracted with our teammates. Switch fire to Koenig. And what did I tell you? We got a battleship there that would have had our broadside if we hadn't made that turn. And then Hyuga, I don't think, can shoot us. Koenig is dead. We'll hold it here for a second. With a mind of doing something to that battleship out there. Unless we can hit Hyuga. I don't think we can. Hyuga's a bit of a lost cause. So what we're going to do is reverse a little bit toward Friedrich. Actually, we will shoot. See if anything else can shoot at us. I think we're safe from Hyuga due to the islands. Okay, we do get the Furutaka shooting at us. We're shooting AP, which is not ideal, but we are angled. We probably ought to shoot at that DD. But Furutaka is giving us such broadside that we have to take that shot, I think. Okay, now switch back to the HE. Okay, yep. That was worth it. Would like to hit the DD, but I don't think we can. Friedrich. Switch to the AP again. We bounce Friedrich shells. It's all good. Okay, Furutaka still broadside. It's a fairly even game, but I think we can kill this Furutaka. I think the Hyuga went down, so it's just the Friedrich. Just the Friedrich, Nuremberg, DD. That's dead Furutaka. You don't want to give broadside. You want to be angled like we have been. Notice how alive I am and how dead he is, all down to positioning. That is the key to World of Warships Legends, is good positioning. Most difficult thing in the game to get right. Takes a lot of practice. Okay, so now guns on this side. We're going to go back in. Our battleship is nearly dead. We're going to try to do what we can to carry this match, but what we need to do is take out the enemy battleship. That is by far the biggest threat. The destroyer, we do have sonar if we run into that. Cruiser, we have AP, and in fact, if the Nuremberg is going to make that push, then we are going to turn the guns back this way and go to try to intercept that push. And I want the plane up just to maybe get sight of Friedrich. There he is. Not aimed at us. That's fine. Continue that turn. Okay, the DD's over there too. Our battleship is shooting at the Nuremberg. Does the DD get him? No, not quite. Can we help? I did get our battleship. Shells can't quite make it there. All right. So, Friedrich. We don't want to run into the island. Does our destroyer have the Nuremberg? He does. He's certainly dead to the Friedrich, though. Well, this is where we make our stand then. Reverse toward Friedrich. Angle. Tighten up the angle. Hopefully he slows down and takes these torps. Okay. Pens through the stern. He is going to take at least one torp, I think. Okay, and we got to go forward now. Okay, that torpedo is helpful. Okay. Even the DD is shooting at us. We want to rotate the ship and get the torps from the other side if Friedrich is going to continue pushing in. We'll angle toward him. And we will wait until he shoots before we launch our torps. There we go. Okay, we're safe. Launch the torps. If this Friedrich is very experienced, he probably will realize the torps are coming at him. If he's fairly new to the game, he might not realize, but that was kind of an obvious giveaway of me launching the torps. And he is turning, but I think he's turning to get all his guns on target, which is going to take him right into the torps. And that is going to spell his demise? Yes. Okay. So then it's just the destroyer left. And we do have the tools to deal with that. I just don't know if we have enough time. What is it? Icarus. Okay. Icarus. Royal Navy destroyer. He's obviously in the Charlie cap. Point situation is very close, but we can carry this game with just sinking him. We just need to not get sunk ourselves in the process. Luckily, though, we do have the sonar, which will give us advanced warning of any torps. But all right, this is kind of a nice game, honestly. This will be, either way, regardless of the result, this will be a pretty good game, I think. Okay, so Icarus sees us. Now, one thing, too, about Ingenious is you see the number 1. That means Icarus is aiming at me with his main battery guns. If he switches to his torpedoes, then that number is going to disappear. And that's an indication that he might have launched his torpedoes. Yep, he's launching torps for sure. I don't know exactly where he is. The fact that we keep going undetected makes me think he must be around an island somewhere. But which one it is? No idea. So we got the sonar on. That should help us with the torps. We are fast and maneuverable. What we're going to do is turn this way. What we don't want to do is sail in any kind of straight line. We want to be turning constantly. We want to vary our course and our speed. I want the guns on that side, I think. So I don't know. I have no idea where the destroyer is. If he is an experienced player, then he will know that all he needs to do is run away, and he wins. If he attempts to fight me and sinks, well, he loses. Let's see if he's in the cap. He is not in the cap. So this guy... Torpedoes? Oh, okay. So he's somewhere over here, I think. Oh, there he is. Okay. I don't want to let him go. I don't think we're actually going to be able to catch him, though. I think he got spotted and he didn't mean to. And I think he knows what he's doing. So GG to this guy. He's playing this exactly right. I don't really have a chance of winning unless he wants to give it to me. My only hope is that I'm fast enough to catch him and spot him again, but even if I am, don't have enough time left. But this was a good game, I think. I think this gives you 3 pretty good examples of how to play the Furutaka pretty well. GG's to the Icarus. Nice job, honestly. More destroyer players, take note from this guy. He's good. He knows what he's doing. Good job. He wins the game. We're not able to affect the carry, but that's all right. I think this was a pretty good series of games in the Furutaka. Let's see how we did here. It was at least a close game, so that's about all you can ask for. Yeah, not bad. 1,620 base XP on the loss. Top of the leaderboard, not bad. GG's to the Icarus, who really sort of won the game for his team or brought home the win. In any case, that is our look at the Furutaka, our low-tier guide on the ship. I hope you found this video helpful, especially if you're new to the game. If so, give it a thumbs up, consider subscribing if you haven't already, and let me know in the comments if there is a lower tier ship that you'd like me to feature. I don't really think we're going to go into tier 3 all that much, but tier 4, I think that's where we can sort of start. But I guess we could do tier 3 if there's a demand for it. Anyway, let me know. Thank you for watching, and I'll see you next time. Goodbye.